Chairwoman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item?
Next item B, Chairwoman's remarks.
None right now. Sorry I'm late, I guess.
Next item C, budget presentation.
Oh, I told Chairwoman Bell that I was going to say it was her fault. It was.
Next item C1, under budget presentation, budget instruction review.
Already. Mr. Abbo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am going to actually pass this one over to Terrence Adams, who is more intimate with all of the instructions, and I will add comments to coincide with his presentation.
In that case, do you want to go one by one, or do you want us to take questions as you go?
Whatever the committee wants, we can take questions as we go.
As we go. Okay. Just so we're all on the same page. Okay.
Okay. All right, page 1. There's no change to the language that was already stated. On page 2, no change to number 3. Number 4. There was a date change, and we took out some of the language that gave reference to previous years.
That's number 1.
Number 1, I'm sorry, on page 2, underneath general government, page 2.
Yeah.
Page 2, number 2, there was technically no change to that one. I just added an "and" to subpoint C, which is on beginning of top of page 3.
Okay, fine.
Page 4, number 3,
Are we on page 3, Terrence?
I'm sorry, page 3. We're on page 3. Not the Tigers, but
Give us some good news, huh?
so page 3, number 3, I'm gonna let Mark kind of describe what we did. You will see this going forward in some of the other ones.
Thank you, Terrence. You'll notice if you look throughout this document that a common theme is you'll see comparing the results from fiscal year 17-18 to 18-19. It's basically comparing the current year to the prior fiscal year. And the reason that we're adding that, and you'll see it at least a couple dozen times, is because we're noticing that as we got the results over the year, there was no context to the results. You look at the results and say, okay, so what is this telling me? And unless you pulled out the report from the prior year, you really didn't know. So this will, by having comparative results, we can see where the numbers that we're looking at are trending, whether they're going up, whether they're going down, and it'll give us more context in our evaluation of the data that we're being supplied. And we added just 1 year because the thought is if the report is being just added to the report that was given currently, all they have to do is, the administration has to do is just add the current year data. Perhaps next year we'll think about making it a 3-year report, but for now it's just a 2-year report.
Go ahead.
I think one of the important things is to have that context, to be able to see what that number really means, and as compared to the previous years. And I would certainly urge at least 2 years back. And
Again, I think that we'll consider that next year so that we can, again, see if things are trending in a certain way. By adding only 1 year, we're not really forcing them to do any research. All we're asking them to do is take the prior report, put the current year numbers in it, and, then we can go.
I can understand that, but let's see. I don't think it's going to give us, because that 1 year, previous year, could be an anomaly, and really not be. But if you see another year or even 3 years altogether, past years, it gives you much more to view. And,
We'll discuss that with the administration and see if it's possible to do that.
okay.
Hey, Mark, if I can ask for, in section 3, what is it you're even asking for? Legal cases, the number shall provide a report of legal cases? Why would the treasurer have legal cases as opposed to court counsel, or, I guess I'm not sure what kind of, I mean, are you talking about lawsuits against the DTRF program?
There are lawsuits that are brought against just the treasurer that do not go through corporation counsel, Kevin, so.
But is it regarding his general fund operations? Or is it?
No, it's
so-
DTRF.
So this section here probably belongs in DTRF, wouldn't you think, Terrence? You know, I guess it doesn't make any difference. I mean, as long as he provides it, I don't care. So, but I'm just saying if his general fund operations, all he did is collecting money.
No, this isn't litigation resulting from that. It really has to do with foreclosures
Right.
and taxes.
That's what I was going to say.
Right. So maybe you should mention that in the instructions, what you're asking for.
We can clarify that.
Yeah,
Through the
it's
chair,
just a
the,
clarification, yeah.
the treasurer usually does submit the report, so it's something they have been submitting over the past year, so
Okay.
they
that's
are,
fine.
they understand.
There's a new group of treasurers over there, though, that's all.
We can go ahead and clarify what
That was
it
an
is that
off-the-record
we're
comment, by the
asking then.
Yeah.
Already?
All right,
Anyone else? Okay.
Number 4, is this a date change in that instruction? Number 5, is a date change and with the language where we want them to compare 1718 to 1819.
Okay.
Page 4, number 6 is a date change and asking to compare 2017 with 2018 numbers. Number 7 are these date changes. Number 8, there's no change. Number 9, there's no change. Going to page 5, number 10, there's no change. And number 11, the change that we made was just eliminating the report. This has to do with any fees that any department or elected official wants to change, will have to come to the commission anyways to get approved. So we left it in there as a statement, but there's no report that's needed. Number 12, there was no change.
Going back to number 4, about the fees, do we need to maybe recommend that they look at their fees to make sure that they compare what they need to the services that we're giving?
Well, within the instruction, we do ask that they continue to review the fees that they're already established. So hopefully that if they need a change, they would send it, them in administration with MNB will send it to the commission. But if you'd like to add more language, ma'am, we can.
Commissioner Anderson?
I think, are you talking more about updating their fee structures for all departments? Is that where you're going?
For anybody and everybody that needs to.
Yeah, I don't know where to put that in here, but I think it's something it would positively affect our revenue in that, I think, if we would get that done, but I just don't know where it would go.
I don't know where to put it either. My problem is that we don't want to wait till we have to raise fees
50%.
overwhelmingly. And so if we're going to do it, we should do it gradually. Like we did with the health department a while back. We'll look at that. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, we're on page 6, number 13. With this one, what we did was we eliminated asking for fiscal years 15, 16, 16, 17. We kept 17, 18, 18, 19. But just to make a note that since this budget structure was put in a couple years ago, we've never received it. So to have them go back 4 years, we figured that probably wasn't going to happen. So at least go back 2 years.
Terrence,
Kevin.
don't we provide that information when you do a budget, in the budget hearing request from M&B? Or non-departmental? I think that's something, you're asking for dues and memberships, and you're not talking about the CPA membership or anything like that. You're talking about the MAC dues and, dues to Automation Alley and things like that. And those are provided to the commission, to Ways and Means annually. So I sort of have to take exception to the fact that they're saying that we don't provide that to you folks. And I've got my box here to prove it if I need to.
You don't provide it separately, is what he's saying.
Right, it's part of the budget, and it's part of the Mary, I think Mary's got non-departmental, I think it's Mary that, no, it's Terrence. So we provided, they asked us, please provide us the memberships, and like I said, you're not looking for the fact that I'm a member of GFOA, you don't care about that, but you wanted to see, are we paying the Automation Alley, are we paying MAC, are we paying NACO and things like that? And we do provide that report.
I think what Kevin is saying is that the spirit of it is provided to us, although not formally, but in more of an informal matter, and I would accept that.
And we did talk about that during the budget this year, actually,
Yeah.
about membership fees. We did,
Right.
and you explained it very well.
So what we like to do with this particular one then?
You can leave it in when you.
Yeah, Terrence, I think we'll leave it in, but you can remove that section that says, but we're not submitted, that's all.
Yes, sir.
With a wink and a nod.
Okay.
Number 14, this instruction had to do with the administration providing status reports on the new jail project. So we kind of reworded it because a lot of updates do go to the Special Committee on Criminal Justice, and there are meetings monthly for that committee. So we just kind of reworded it to say that they provide monthly status reports on the new jail to the Committee on Criminal Justice, Special Committee on Criminal Justice Center.
Commissioner Marecki?
So will we continue though to get those reports from, I think you get them from Tim?
Yes, monthly,
Yeah, We'll keep getting those.
yes. Yes, Tim. Thank you. I didn't want to speak for you.
So page 6, number 15, we recommended, a delete of this instruction. This was one of the reports that there was not a lot of detail to. Sometimes the answer would be 0, and regarding for 15 and 16, and we just didn't want to have the register of deeds keep reporting and a report that was 0.
Right, right. Makes sense. Okay. Commissioner Baker McCormick?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the deeds filed, you saying there were 0 deeds filed? Is that? Am I on the right number, 15?
She's asking why you crossed it out, why it's not necessary.
It wasn't, I don't have the actual reports in hand because I looked at the previous ones. And I believe the language had something to do about lawsuits of the deeds being filed or things of that nature, and they didn't really have any lawsuits. Last year, I don't have the actual report on me, but a lot of times the report will have 0, and if any, and the report can always be asked at the committee level if there's any discrepancies or things of that nature. We just didn't want them to have them keep doing it when it wasn't beneficial to the commissioners looking at the report.
The other part of this, if I might add, is we were trying to get away from just the concept of having departments report stuff just for the sake of reporting. I mean, if there's a purpose for a report, because this is the Register of Deeds' primary purpose is to deal with deeds filed and, the quantities and the essence of his responsibility I really discussed during the budget hearings. And so just preparing a report just for the sake of preparing a report just didn't seem to be worthwhile.
I guess I was just wondering why this provision was here. Was it a reason why we needed a report of the deeds in the first place? What was the thought process behind that? And then I know we're taking it out, but then he said something about there were 0 deeds filed.
And Commissioner, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what we were going through a part of this year. It was like we would get these reports and you just kind of look at the report and you say,
What are we?
why did we ever ask for this? Because, at one time, I'm sure that there was a reason, and although I can't say specifically because I wasn't necessarily here, but a lot of times during the time when the county had lost a significant amount of its revenue, there was a want and a desire to really kind of, peel away, at the onion to see what's going on and what are we doing and how much. So these reports were being requested at times when it may have been necessary. And at this point in time, when you look at the report and in the context of where we are in the liquidity situation with the county, you say, why are we asking for this and what do we need it for? And you don't want to just give departments responsibility and workload that we just look at and file and don't react to.
Thank you.
A long time ago, when I first got here, the Register of Deeds was being criticized for not filing the deeds on time, and it took too long, and there were some issues with the outside entities wanting to do things differently. But once this Register of Deeds came in, all of a sudden, he had a different way of doing things, and all of a sudden now, you can file your deed the same day and get it back too, if you bring it right down. So the practice has changed and the language did not. Okay. I have too much memory. From being here quite a while. Not too long, though. Go ahead, Terrence.
All right, page 7, number 15. This is a fiscal year change in report as well as a date change. Number 16, the only change was I just took out the Human Relations Division and just made it to say Department of Corporation Counsel. I did that throughout the whole report to put the emphasis on the department as a whole and not a particular division of that department. Number 17, similar, just took out the Human Relations Division at the heading, make the department report, and it's a comparison of the 17, 18, 18, 19 years.
Okay.
With the date change. Page 8, states new number 18, there's no change. 19 on page 8, just a comparison of the years for 17, 18, 18, 19. Just so you know, 15 and 16, 16, 17 were deleted because they were completed as a whole. So we're just asking them to compare. They actually did 15, 16 through 17, 18, but we wanted to compare back 17, 18 to 18, 19. The last one on page 8 is deleted because there's no more turbo program. On page 9, new number 20, that's a date change. The new 21, previously I said the Economic Development Corporation, and there was a lot of misunderstanding from last year in regards to that. So since there's now a Economic Development Department who correlates with the Economic Development Corporation in some shape or form, we just put the emphasis on that department to provide this report on what the EDC is doing. But as a whole, this report as a whole had not been submitted to us in a couple for fiscal year 16, 17. But we just removed that number, this to have 17, 18, 18, 19. And then the new number 22, well, back to 21, this is what was implemented. What did they do in those previous years? The new number 22 is we're asking for what's being proposed for next fiscal year 1920. The number 23 was this clip.
Oh, Felicia?
And this is for clarification purposes, and I'm sure it's already known. So we're asking for a report regarding what the EDC is doing, but that won't necessarily tell you what the Department of Economic Development is doing. So so if you want both, you need to add both in there, because right now this just talks about the EDC, and technically they're two separate entities, and those projects do not have to overlap.
Commissioner Webb, Maraki?
I'm just curious if I'm clear on this. I think it would be really.
Turn your mic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I think it would be really great if the county commission all of us were made aware of what the EDC was doing before they did it, rather than,
Okay, sorry.
and then on the backside, after they've been working on something, hired brokers, spending, committing monies that could easily exceed the procurement limit without even our approval on that. So my thing with, and I don't know if this is specifically relevant in this particular section, but I just don't know if it's possible to request that the commission be made aware of initiatives that the EDC is looking to do before they do it.
Through the chair,
I have-
Commissioner Webb, if I can, number 22 is asking for what the EDC is going to propose for next fiscal year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's beautiful.
But
Go ahead, Felicia.
And I want to make sure that we understand that we have two entities now. We have a department and we have the EDC Corporation. So the EDC Corporation is a separate board with its own body. I mean, it's a separate body. So it's one thing to talk about what we're going to make the department do, and maybe a separate conversation for what you're seeking from the corporation, which is a separate legal entity. So I just want to clarify that, because sometimes we talk about it as if it's one, but it's really two now.
Oh, to that point,
Thank you, Felicia. I was going to say
Yes,
this.
go
is
ahead.
it possible to make the same request of both? Felicia, is it possible to make the same request of both? Why wouldn't we?
Well-
The more we know, the better.
Mark?
Through the chair, if I could ask Felicia, what we're saying, Felicia, is the Economic Development Department shall provide a report on all Economic Development Corporation projects and initiatives. Should we say, instead of report on it, we should say, and they should report, indicating both of them? And what is our oversight over the Economic Development Corporation?
Oh, Mark, you don't want to get me started on the
I do. Pick me.
Because, and here's my thinking, Felicia, and Craig, I think that we will have an opportunity with the Economic Development Corporation once they refinance those bonds, and we will be able to assert more of an oversight that I'm not seeing that we have right now. But if you have a quick answer on it.
I think you do have it now, but that's another story. So, no, the only distinction
Well,
I
that
was
they pay
trying
attention to.
Right, the only distinction I was trying to make is this says specifically activities of the Economic Development Corporation. So we have a department. We can't assume that everything the department does, the EDC will also be involved in. It's possible that the department may do things that the EDC is not involved in because they have the brownfield and they have the build, they have other entities. So I just wanted to make that clear that while you're asking for a report of the EDC, that may not give you every economic development
Right.
project in the county.
We can always ask, right?
Right.
So if it's okay with the committee members, we'll just put it in there. Commissioner Marecki?
Thank you. So in, Felicia, number 21 then, should we take out the Economic Development Corporation out of that and just make that separate into 22? Because it looks like we're asking almost for the same.
I think one is prior and one is future.
Yeah, to do
Right.
it.
One is future, the Economic Development Corporation.
But you may want to know what they're currently doing and what they've done that you're not aware of, so you
Oh,
may want
yeah.
both. Because they may have things happening now that, as you know, they spend millions of dollars. I know, I said I wasn't, okay, yes, so we may not be aware.
We will add EDC.
Well, I will add language that states what the Economic Development Corporation proposes to do for fiscal year 1920, themselves as a department.
Okay, so the EDD, because you just said
Yeah.
EDC.
Or EDD, yeah.
There you
yeah.
go, okay.
EDD.
Yes,
yeah.
we'll get the language together.
Yeah, thank you, and we're going to involve our commission council in this one too, so.
We'll look at that language when we come back on the 10th.
So can we ask for the can we actually ask for the past in this as well, or you can't?
We are.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They're asking
Past
for
and
us.
future.
Past and future.
Oh, I have a feeling this is going to be like, no way, but go ahead.
Well, it's in our budget instructions,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott.
I think she just said it. You know, we've had this conversation over and over about the EDC, and they're so separate, and they do things a little differently that the department doesn't really know. So I think they both should have
We'll
a
ask for
report.
both.
Yes.
Is it a consensus of the committee to go ahead and do that?
So moved.
We'll put it at the end. If there's consensus, if not, then we would put it aside, so, yes.
This is not prospective, this is in hindsight.
Yes.
Providing this report. Do we want to provide some type of language, and I don't know if we should be able to do it, plan projects, not just ones that's already been done. That way we see in advance what's coming.
That's what we're
That's what
doing.
we're asking for.
So
One is
prospective then.
Both.
One is
Both.
past and one
Okay.
is future.
Okay.
That's
just-
what this other one
sounds
is,
clear.
future.
In summary, past and prospective for both the EDD and the EDC.
Right.
And I would like to see, until we resolve the larger issue, I would like to see the commission, if it's whichever committee or whether it's the entire commission, see this in advance. And you might do that by looking at their agendas for their upcoming meetings and receiving those.
They're going to have to give it to us no later than December 1 of 19.
Actually, we do receive their agendas, and there are members of the commission staff that attend those meetings.
Okay. But
Yes.
our representative on the EDC?
We don't have a representative.
We don't have-
We're more observers.
Okay.
We're observers. We get the agenda, and we are allowed into the meeting. Well, I think it's probably a public meeting anyway, but we do go. We do go, and we observe, and it is merely an observer status.
So what do you do with the information you get out of that? It doesn't sound like the commission is receiving any kind of update of what happens at the EDC meetings. Not that I'm throwing you under the bus, Mark.
I'm not gonna have him throw himself under the bus.
Thank you,
What
Kevin.
we're
I-
gonna-
He's you
what we're
way
gonna
down
say-
there.
What we're gonna say is if they see any red flags, I'm sure that it goes
Yeah.
up.
And that's, I mean, we
The
use that
commission.
information when we're dealing with any matters that come before us as a result.
No, I was just going to say that any issues, we do try to at least bring to the attention of the chair or someone else. But I also would state that it's been indicated in the past that just because we get the emails regarding the EDC meetings, we don't get all the documents and financials, because I've been told that by the staff members who actually go through those documents, that some of those financials and information that's been represented in the past, when they say, oh, well, we invite your staff and you get the emails, all of that good stuff that you're really looking for, is my understanding, is not in those emails and attached. So we still don't get the information.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
so we'll have to change that.
I don't know when the changes were made, but the old Wayne County, there was a member of the board of Wayne County Commission that was on the EDC.
How did we lose that?
I don't know why they
That was
removed it.
before the charter, you mean?
That was before the charter.
Yeah,
Yeah. and
that's
why I'm
probably what
wondering
happened.
Why those changes were made.
Yeah. We'll have to
The
ask,
one from Detroit could serve on there, but if you were from Out County, Highland Park, or Hamtramck, you could, because I was the chair at one time.
I remember, it went away, but I remember it
Yeah, I was
was
just wondering
like that
why.
20 years ago, still.
Yeah, well. But I still, I still think that we should be a part of it.
Well, we can have Economic Development Committee look into that. Felicia?
I have a file on most of the component units. It's so many of them. I don't recall the details off the top of my head, but I'll get you that information.
Oh, great, thank you. Continue, Terrence.
Number
Please.
23 on page 9, we did a date change and also changed the reporting, changed to the Economic Development Department instead of the Economic Development Corporation, since we have a department now.
Right. Okay,
Number 24 is asking the Economic Development Department to report on the activities of the Greater Wayne Economic Development Corporation. 24 is past what was implemented for 17-18, and then 25 that's on the right-hand side is asking for proposed for 19-20.
okay. Any questions?
PWEDC is just another, falls under the umbrella of the EDC, I guess. A very, very small operation.
This is where the census is going to go, or coming from? I think. Is this where the census is residing?
No, that's Detroit, what is it, Wayne United.
Oh, Wayne United, okay,
So many acronyms.
yeah.
It's WU.
I know, right? It's ridiculous.
Number 26, we changed the department from Management and Budget to Economic Development Corporation, Department, EDD, as relates to Pinnacle. Even though I guess there's a Pinnacle operation, the funding is under non-departmental, but it's still basically ran by EDD, or is it ran by M&B?
It's the Pinnacle Business Unit is really just a housing spot to pay the debt service and some other things that are run through the, it's really an M&B thing, I guess.
I guess we could keep it in there until the debts are paid off.
So does
Put it back in M&B.
to report on Pinnacle, or do you want EDD to report on Pinnacle?
Well, they're just gonna come and ask me for it. I mean,
Okay, Kevin will report it.
Kevin Haney,
Yeah,
Kevin Haney shall report.
Kevin, you sure
M&D.
are you gonna report on it, or are you gonna leave it up to them to do it?
I, leave it in the way you want, it's fine.
okay, 27.
27, there is no change. On page 11, no change for 28 or 29. Page 12, no change for 30. For 31, first change, we just took out the procurement division and put the emphasis on the Department of Management and Budget, and asking for a comparison for years 17, 18, 18, 19. When this report was first put in, there was no asking for any particular year. So we added that, but we've never received this report to start off with in previous years.
We will next year. Go ahead.
For 32, the first change was just took the emphasis off the procurement division, just put it on the Department of Management and Budget. Asking for fiscal year 17, 18 and added 18, 19. And we didn't receive anything for 16, 17. This report is the report that we were getting regularly before, but this is for all contracts under 50,000 that the CEO approves without coming to the commission. So we haven't been receiving them in a couple years.
What a surprise.
And that was 32. On page 13, number 33 is particularly the same report, but is asking for it will be asking for current fiscal year or fiscal year 1920 on a quarterly basis. Number 34 is this a date change regarding the outstanding Wayne County bonds. Number 35.
Sure.
I just thought of this. Back in 32 on page 12, is there any way to, with these contracts, any way that we could be told that?
Turn your mic on, please.
If a contract was stopped, like was started and stopped, because sometimes we have these contracts that are even awarded by the commission and then they're stopped by the CEO. So do we ever see any of that? I don't think we do.
Felicia,
I mean, like halted.
we'll let
like
Felicia
severed.
answer that.
Okay.
I got really excited when you said that, because I've had this fight with the administration
Yes.
regarding whether they have authority to terminate or stop something that's been submitted. So no, to my knowledge, we have never received such a report, but such a report would be a good idea so you can get a handle on what's happening. And then once you know what's happening, you can decide what to do or not to do with that information.
That's even like contracts that the commission has approved.
Yes, that's what I'm talking, contracts that have been approved. You could do both. You could do the contracts that that they've sort of started, but you can also do, more importantly, I would say, the contracts that you've approved that either, one, were never executed by the CEO or implemented, or two, were terminated or stopped for some other reasons, because those are the things that we aren't aware of that could be beneficial to know for various reasons.
Could we put that into that section? Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Sorry about backtracking.
No, actually, that was a very good catch.
Yeah, that was a great.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, we will add that language to that. Okay, back on 13, page 13.
Number 35 on page 13. This report is asking for the revenues collected from the Guardian Building in the First Street. We left in for fiscal year 17, 18 and added 18, 19. But just to note that we never received the information for 15, 16 or 16, 17. And 36 relates to 35, but it's asking more so we'll be asking for a fiscal year 1920 with the comparison at the times to 1819 on a quarterly basis.
Maybe we'll go back after the budget is approved and the reports that have not been coming to us. We'll send a letter from Ways and Means to say we've not been receiving these, and we would like to have them.
We actually do send that letter.
I'll send the letter.
Okay.
Or let the
That would
chairwoman
that would have
send the letter.
more force to it, and I would appreciate that.
Whatever you guys need to do your job. I will support. Okay, next. Page 14 then?
Page 14, number 37, there was a date change and then also an added date. This has to do with report on the Guardian building as far as debt service, renovations, occupancy status, departments moving. Originally, we just had one date, but we figured we have 2 days because things could change 6 months later. Number 38, no change. Number 39 were just yearly changes. Number 40, there was no change in the language. But just a note, we haven't received the cash flow in a while. I know things, so I don't know if Kevin can explain that.
Yeah, Matthew's off sick.
That's a good one, Kevin.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
And that's, I mean, I don't have another explanation for that other than he's been off and he hasn't been able to do it.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Kevin was starting to get, I mean,
Matthew.
Matthew was getting good, yeah.
And we actually had the discussion with Matthew at one of the Ways and Means meeting, and we gave him an opportunity to get caught up by just doing all, a certain period of time, all at once,
Yeah.
and in consolidation, but, and I didn't understand the reason, but Matthew suggested that was not, they couldn't do that because on a historical basis, they needed the month to month, so we just kind of let it pass, but we'll see if we can get caught up on it.
Hope he gets well soon.
I think, again, and on this one, once we can say goodbye to J.D. Edwards, I think that we're going to be in really, really good shape. And, I feel like a broken record on that subject, but I really do believe that. It's going to cut down on the number of full-time equivalents we need to manage that system, and I think that the reporting is going to be significantly better.
Okay, next.
Number 41, we kept the language overall as a whole. We took out the reporting mechanism to send a report, and we kind of rewrote it to basically say that the Department of Management and Budget, in conjunction with all county departments and elected officials, shall review and evaluate any county service that can be administered by state or federal agencies for transition to those entities. We kind of assumed that Kevin was already on that because if someone else can pay for it, I'm sure
Yeah,
he will mind. So we kind of kept it in there as overall, but this took out the having a report on it.
okay, thank you. Next.
Number 42, there were date changes in comparison. This is the report for the CEO to report on county-owned vehicles that are being taken home and outside of Wayne County by employees. Number 43, was this a date change? This is asking management budget to provide a list of all active county component units. Number 44, this we kind of restructured, but this deals with the ERP system, and we're just asking for a report on, since we've approved a lot of the contracts on the implementation of it, if there have been any cost changes, and to report in December and July.
So you'll get those, Diane? Get us,
And change the committee to go to GovOps.
committee.
oh, in GovOps. Okay.
So Terrence, can we go back to 42, or Chair, could we go back to 42 for a second?
Yes,
You're asking for vehicles to be taken home. The CEO controls DPS vehicles and general fund vehicles, and there's only a few of those. The majority of the vehicles outstanding are the sheriff's. And prosecuting attorney has some as well. The CEO doesn't really control who takes those home or not. So you're asking the CEO to provide a report for sections of the government that he doesn't control.
Okay, Commissioner Anderson?
Not on that.
Okay.
Not on that particular topic.
On this one, how would you reword that then?
We could parse that up into,
Departments?
into the department. But Terrence, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we got that information anyway from the sheriff and the prosecuting attorney on vehicles that are taken home.
Well, we do get it from the sheriff. We will add now the prosecuting attorney, and we will just change his language to say under the authority of the CEO. The vehicles that are under the authority of the CEO.
Okay, that's
So
a
you asked
good
for that in different
compromise.
sections then? You asked for vehicles for the sheriff?
For the sheriff,
in
yes.
In his section? Okay.
Yes. We'll modify this to have it say under the authority of the CEO or something like that.
No, if this is just for the CEO, that's, the language is fine. I thought when I read it, you know.
No,
you're
this is
talking about-
mainly just for the CEO's departments.
All right.
But we'll clarify it so it's understood.
He'll say if it's any of his, but if not, then, okay. Go ahead. So clarification is coming on that one.
Okay. Could I, since I've got a different matter,
Sure.
and I don't know exactly where to put it in, but I know we've been talking about CEO's office and reports from there. I know we haven't approved it yet, but the language I believe is in the budget right now for the $1.7 million for the warrant task force. And I'd like to see us have some type of report required. So whether it be 6 months or a year from now, we see what the efficacy of that program is and the number of warrants that have been served and arrests made as compared to like last year and maybe the year before.
Okay, I think Terrence has the answer for you.
Okay.
There is language in here in a different section. When we get to it, you will see it. It's in a different, since the funding is underneath community corrections, that language is underneath the community corrections section.
Okay. I'll wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
While
Thank
we
you.
were talking about it before, Terrence was taking notes, so
Okay.
he did put it in there.
Great.
Okay, next. Are we all okay so far? Okay, next then.
Page 16, number 45, we added to fiscal year 17-18, also 18-19 with the date change. Number 46, we added management budget to work with the Wayne County Retirement Commission to provide this report on the investments of the municipal employees retirement system with a comparison of fiscal years 18-19 to 19-20.
You don't have any problems with that, do you?
Well, I guess my question is that would be a Wickers report. I would think it would be in the audit report for Wickers, and the commission gets that submitted to them by Wickers, so I think that's already been provided.
Marcella, what do you think? Turn your mic on if. Yep, okay. Sorry, I caught you off guard.
Actually, Kevin is right that we do get that information in the form of the audit, except that I think what we're looking for is probably a little bit more granular than what you might see in an audit report. An audit report is more high level than the type of data that we would be looking for.
But doesn't the chair, as the member of the Wickers Committee, get that information?
Yeah, but I'd hate to give the responsibility to the chair to make sure it gets deciphered. I think that if we just got that information, it probably would be easier.
Who sends out the emails with that information in it? It would be just as simple, no? I don't know. You don't object to being in there?
No, I mean, I'm just saying that it's, the chair is on the committee, and I understand where you're coming from, Mark. Mark attends the meetings as well. Management and budget really, other than funding the ARC, ensuring the funding of the ARC, we really don't have anything to do with the investments of Wickers.
Through the chair, Kevin, would you like us to take out management and budget and just put the responsibility on the retirement commission?
Or the chair of the commission, sure.
Or we won't do option 2.
Everybody but you.
Thanks for the offer, but no thanks.
I really don't want to put that burden on the chair.
No.
That should be part of the legislative section, by the way. I mean,
We can remove management and budget from that and just put it on Wickers.
Just remember, we gave you one.
Marcy wants. Marcy wants.
Because we're dealing with the,
Marcy, go
and
ahead.
maybe the retirement commission could provide some type of investment reports. I'm sure the committee members get investment reports, and they could maybe provide a summary report to the Ways and Means. 'Cause that's what we're talking about, the investments. So the audit report's not gonna have that information.
And the management advisor always has their flash reports, which would be basically that. And it's something that I think that could be passed on to Ways and Means. So I don't think that this is a big burden at all.
Okay, so we are going to read, it's going to read us as what?
Wickers instead of management and budget.
Okay. Everybody okay with that? Okay.
It also will probably be moved to a different section, just so you guys will know. But we'll highlight it on Tuesday where it's located.
Okay, so we're going to move it and just change it. Alrighty? Next?
Number 48, where it is adding, we're comparing the fiscal year 17, 18, and then there needs to be a date change, where it says December 1st, 2018, it's going to be 2019.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to let Marcy to explain. This was one that was recommended by her last year for 2017. Since we didn't receive any information for 17, we added 17 to go with 18.
And what, through the chair, what happens at the audit committee when they present the single audit? There's always question about what is the status of the findings that are in the single audit. Of course, they follow up on those findings in the next fiscal year, but committee members also like to know if the findings are being implemented prior to the next year, so more an updated status.
Okay.
All right, page 17, number 49. First change is we just took out the division and just made an emphasis on the Department of Management and Budget. And we added fiscal year 18, 19 and left fiscal year 17, 18. And since it was going back past the years, we removed fiscal year 16, 17, but we never received the information for that fiscal year.
Okay. Not okay, but we'll move on. You're okay with that, Kevin?
Livia retired is the reason why.
What a loss that was. Jeez.
I knew you had an answer.
I mean, it may not be a good answer, but it is.
It's an honest one.
It's an honest one, right? Okay. We appreciate that. Okay, go ahead.
This for number 50, basically this date changes. And 51, date change. On page 18, number 52, this fiscal year change and then date change. Number 53 is a fiscal year change and then a date change. 54, no change in the actual language. 55 is a fiscal year change and a date change.
Okay.
So, and underneath this section as well, within the prosecuting attorney, I'm going to add about their take-home vehicles for her to report on her take-home vehicles.
Okay, so it will be in this section.
Yeah.
Okay. Vehicle reporting, okay. Okay,
Madam Chair.
yes.
Terrence,
Commissioner Anderson?
Did we get to 55 yet? We're not at 55 yet, right?
Yeah, we did, but
Okay.
that's where we stopped at.
Okay. One thing I've noticed fairly regularly is that a lot of times we'll get pieces of paper that really don't have letterhead on them. You don't even know who prepared the report. And I would just like to ask if we can make a blanket requirement of all reports that they be submitted under somebody's department head. And there should be some indication of who prepared the report, that's all.
Oh, the person who prepared it?
Right, or if it's want to be the director, they sign off on it.
How do you do that?
Through the chair, for the elected officials, it is part of the language is for them to submit it on their letterhead. And for the CEO departments, the director's names are usually on the cover sheet of what department they're coming from.
And they're usually on department letterhead.
I've seen sometimes that it's not, and you get this piece of paper that you don't know who prepared it.
If it's something, it may be that it's something that's handed out during committee, I can understand that. But if it's something that goes through TCM and there's no letterhead on it, it gets kicked back. So,
Well, we don't always see all the stuff that goes through TCM, right? And we don't get
no,
all
like,
that.
like if you get a report, all of these reports, or most of these reports coming from the CEO's office, you're asking it to go through TCM. They're specifically
They go
asking it
through
for.
committees.
Through the chair, the TCM report is usually attached to the report.
Right, but it's, I guess if you're used to looking at that type report, I mean, you can see the names certainly on there of people that have reviewed it.
So for example, if we're going to be talking about the technical adjustments, we don't have letterhead on that because these are draft types of things that we're just handing out in committee. But if it's going through the formal process, at least from the CEOs, because the CEO is the one that's in TCM for the most part.
So you're saying that all reports
Yeah, we
that
would-
are required by this are all going?
It's required to have a transmittal letter, and the transmittal letter will have letterhead on it, or it will be kicked back.
Okay.
The
all right,
report
I'll-
itself may not have it, but the letter
Cover the
that,
transmittal letter would, so it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, I'll let it lie for now.
right.
And Commissioner, if you see something like that, point it out to me and I can go investigate it. So,
Thank you. Next item.
All right, page
Back on
19.
19.
Page 19, we're getting to the public safety functions. So on page 19, number 1, is this a day change? And then we're asking for them to compare fiscal year 18-19 to 19-20 as they submit the reports for that time, different time frames. Number 2, again, we're asking them to compare the 18-19 numbers to what would be the current 19-20 numbers. And then we're also sending a report to public safety instead of Ways and Means. It's a sheriff item.
Thank you. I like that.
Number 3, basically doing the same thing, having them compare 18-19, 19-20 numbers and date change.
Oh, good.
Page 20, number 4, having them compare 18-19 and 19-20 numbers with date changes.
Okay.
On page 21, number 5, this is the report for the sheriff on their take-home vehicles. Number 6, having them compare 18-19 to 19-20 numbers with a date change. Number 7, we're recommend deleted because it was completed. We had asked for numbers for 16, 17, 17, 18. They provided those. So the new number 7, which is the last one, is still with the narcotics unit, and we're asking for 18, 19 numbers to be compared against 19, 20 numbers.
Let the record show that Commissioner Basham also joined us today. Thank you. Next.
Number 22,
Page
on page 22, number 8, this report, this was asking for a status report on the it was a RFP we had in the RFQ, so we made that change for the jail commissary services. And then they're going to provide a report on December 1st. I spoke with the sheriff's office, and I believe a RFP was put out, and they're getting in the results. So by December 1st, they should have something finalized for us.
Okay.
All right, page 23, which is health and welfare functions. For number 1, this took out the clinical division as a whole, but also updated the department's name from the Health, Veterans, Community Wellness to the Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services. Asking for comparable results from 17, 18, 18, 19 with the date change. Number 2 is just changing the department's name as a whole. Number 3, changing the department's name and asking for comparison results from 17, 18, 18, 19 with the date change. Number 4, number 4 is being deleted from this section, but is being actually moved to another section as noted. So when we get to that section, we will see this language.
Okay.
So the new number 4, department name change, comparing results, date change, which is the same as the new number 5.
Commissioner Palomero?
No, I'm just thrilled we're halfway through the instructions. Keep up the good work, T.
Thank you. So now we're on page 20. Any questions?
I got one quick question.
Commissioner Webb?
Thank you. Just about the last one, on the report of the No Wrong Door Initiative under Veterans. That is provided to the Health and Human Services Department. I'm not on committee. I'm not on that committee. So when was the last time that they received that? So I'd like to get it. So who should I be asking?
I can forward you a copy. They did submit the report on the results of 17, 18 this past year.
Okay.
So I can forward you that report.
I would appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I have.
If I could recommend, Terrence, maybe we can go through this page by page rather than item by item,
Yeah.
to get through this quick, because we still have the technical amendments that we need to go through. So let's just go through it page by page.
Okay. So page 25, there was this, I just took out engineering division, just put it on the department, and then maybe some date and year changes. Page 26, department name changes, and then for number 6, we add the language that deal with the township paving program, that the report should also include amount of funding allocated and spent per township, as well as a description of the proposed projects per township.
You're welcome, Commissioner Marecki. And Webb?
Thank you. Thank you, huge. I'd like to get the most recent one of those too, Terrence. Thank you.
Okay. 27?
Page 27, this took out the Parks Division, put the emphasis on the whole department as a whole, and there was date changes.
28? Same thing.
Same thing, and then for number 5 with that, we just asking for the comparable results of 17, 18, 18, 19.
29?
29, for numbers for number 1 was just a name change, because that division is now part of, which was the Wellness Division, is now Economic Development Department. Number 2, I kind of broke up. It was saying a whole lot. So now it's basically saying that the Economic Development Department should make maximum efforts to communicate information about the housing rehabilitation program directly with communities and non-profit organizations throughout Wayne County. So the reporting part of that is now number 3, where we're asking for a report to compare the numbers of the program for 17-18, 18-19. And then on page
30.
30, this old number 3, it was kind of was a duplicate. It was what we were trying to ask the department at the time about the active component units, but that's kind of the same one that we were asking for management and budget earlier up. So it was kind of a duplicate, so we just took it out.
Okay.
And then underneath community corrections is the language that Commissioner Anderson was asking about, dealing with the activities of the Violent Crimes Task Force. And then it's a notation, those dates of February should be 2020 and July 2020, so I'm gonna make those changes.
Okay. Is that good? Okay, 21, or 31 rather.
31, number 1, this was the one that was moved from the earlier section that had to deal with the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund balance.
Commissioner Anderson?
One thing, Terrence, I did want to ask about that report, the previous one. The operations and activities, as far as the efficacy, I'm not sure that if they just present the operations and activities, would address the efficacy and the the staffing levels. Because I think some of us have a concern about if they can't get enough deputies right now in the department, what's going to happen? Where are they going to pull those from to put them in that special program? And like I said, I'll look back over how many warrants have been executed, how many arrests have been made since this program has been instituted versus what was happening before. Are we really seeing a net gain in the activity of or the warrants being served and arrests being made? I don't know how you want to, you're good at the wording, so.
So Commissioner, if I may, the beginning number is 0.
Well,
It's a new program.
it's a new program,
No,
but
what
I'm
I'm saying
saying.
is
yeah.
the arrests and convictions or whatever was 0. That's the problem. So this was, no one was going out and chasing these guys.
Because the sheriff was supposed to be in
So
the
you're saying no
jail.
one in Wayne County was arrested on an outstanding warrant?
I'm saying that
Sheriff.
these guys were known, they knew where they lived, and they didn't go out and get them.
Wow.
That's my understanding. That
See, I
was-
understood they were doing some, but it was the older ones that were laying.
That's very possible, but I'm not questioning your change in the language or anything like that, that's fine, so, but.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if they hadn't
These
been
are,
making some
I was
arrests,
actually
so-
stunned when he said, oh, these guys that, they just don't have the resources to go out and get them. And I'm just like, you're kidding me, right? So,
And 2, unless we use the sheriff who has the jurisdiction to go into
Right.
other communities, the city of Detroit couldn't go into E-course to go get
Sure.
their
Right.
fugitives. So this way, with the sheriffs being involved, they can cross
I
those
mean,
lines.
I'm in favor of the program.
So
But I
now-
want to see that we're actually spending money, it's working. Yeah.
Now we'll be able to show, but it would be 0.
Right.
He was right, because the program's just starting.
no, yeah, but next
This
year, when
program.
you have the same language in here in 21, you'll have this versus that, so.
Yeah, I understand. It's, I'm just trying to see that,
Otherwise, we'd have to go to every community to find out how many,
And just so you're aware, just for them to try to get a number of what was happening before, that would be an astronomical amount of work for them trying to figure that out. So that truly the starting point for 2019-20 is going to be 0 time versus X.
yeah,
So,
Okay, I'll let it go next year.
yeah.
well, don't let it, I'm not suggesting let it go.
No, no.
Let them provide the information, and they've already said that they would provide the information.
Right.
And you may want to ask, not that I'm suggesting any more work for these guys, but you may want to suggest to ask them by community as well, because,
They'll be able to provide that.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's add that to it then.
Commissioner Baker McCormick and then Commissioner Webb.
Thank you. For the report for the Veterans Soldier Relief Fund, is there a way we can get also a breakdown of the veterans by name or district that have been serviced?
No, not by
bias,
name, no. I don't
okay.
think.
Or even the breakdown by district would be interesting to see.
How
Is
many
there-
people, maybe?
Are served, because we're looking at the funds and not the people here. And I know that this is what this is about, but I was
The
just
new
wondering.
director, so we'll have to ask
Ask
him.
him.
Yeah.
That's an excellent
Okay.
report.
that would be, I hate to say this, but that would be a lot of work for the folks that are working over there, trying to figure out what district they're in. I mean, what the board, the boundary lines of the various districts, I mean,
I was just wondering
it's-
who we're servicing,
Right.
and so that's
If
Commissioner
they
Webb?
just reported their
zip code. maybe.
zip code, yeah, we could figure it out.
maybe, yeah.
I think that's an excellent question that she just asked. And I was just wondering if there was a way that, and maybe doesn't have to be in the budget instructions, but I just want to throw it out there. The subcommittee on veterans should be getting all this information too. So I don't know if, it looks like it goes to probably Colleen's Health and Human Services Committee, right? But it doesn't go to the subcommittee on veterans.
I think we might need to
Martha's
do
committee.
some more internal thinking of
Yeah.
where these things ought to go rather
Yeah.
than put it in the budget.
Yeah, that's fine. I just want to make us mindful of that. It would be
Yeah.
good to have the people, because not everybody that's on the veterans is on Health and Human
Yeah,
Services.
that's internal.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, internal, but-
Commissioner, that would be internal, because
Okay.
once the CEO submits a report to the commission, whether it goes to the Committee on Ways and Means or the Committee on HHS or whatever, the assumption is from the CEO's office that it's up to that committee chair to provide that information to
Yeah.
the rest of the commissioners.
Okay, I'll make a note of it. Then we just need to communicate that, because I don't think it trickles down. I haven't seen them, and I'm gonna add, I'm making a list of these reports, Terrence, that I'm gonna ask you for a copy for. They come to committees I don't sit on. Because, yeah, I would love to see I'd love to see that report, the allocations, the fund breakdown, when they got a $1.8 million fund balance in there, and they only get 1.5 million a year, so.
In all
but, yeah, I'd like to
fairness,
see
what
that.
happens is we all get all the committee reports in our emails. We just don't go through them
Yeah,
to, so if,
come out, yeah.
to dig them out. So if we all read all of the committee reports and the agenda, then we would find them in there, so.
Yeah.
That's really our job to dig.
Yeah. Well, it would be easier if we knew they were, where to look. Or when they were coming, or, you know what I mean? Well, I'll have a discussion with them about it later. I just need there's about 5 specific reports for committees that I
I
don't
think the
send.
ones we have to read are the ones that we're not sitting on to make sure we don't miss anything.
Well, it'll be better once they're televised. We can all watch them on the internet whenever we want. Okay.
Tell them,
Already?
that's not even funny.
Televised.
Next item.
Um,
Felicia?
I heard you leave.
No?
It's a vicious,
This is internal, that's all she was gonna say. Okay,
long story.
Terrence, go ahead.
all right, page 31, number 2 is new language, is requesting a report on the veterans outreach activities for fiscal year 1920. There's need to be correction on the dates for February 2020 and July 2020. And I'm gonna pass this one back to Mark, and maybe Kevin. This is, Kevin was stating that we needed some type of language for veterans outreach.
Oh, I
Yeah.
think they were,
This actually falls outside, at least my interpretation. Felicia may have a different interpretation. It falls outside the statute that provides for emergency care for the veterans. So because the commission by default is the Committee on Veterans, you need some cover that says, okay, this is outside the normal things, similar to the burials. They're outside the normal emergency services to be provided by the statute. So you just need to give the administration some cover that says that you're requesting this type of services. Go ahead.
Felicia?
Well, there are some outstanding legal concerns with regards to how we have our veterans. If you all recall from the reorg plan, I mentioned that issue and questioned whether or not the setup was legal. And so I don't necessarily want to go into the details of that, but I just want to caution that I'm not certain that you are the default Veterans Committee by statute. So, and I know, Kevin, you've said in the past you like things to be in writing, but if we're giving cover to the administration, we may want to dig and make sure we covering ourselves as well, and I'm just not certain at this second.
That's the case.
About
yeah.
what this is. I don't even
Right.
know exactly what we're referring.
So this is, just so you're.
Felicia, what we're referring to is we would like to allocate $100,000 for one outreach person for the veterans director to hire. So that way we would have some outreach.
Is this coming from the fund? Is that the issue, Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah, it's coming from
Okay,
the
that's
Soldiers
the
and Sailors
issue.
Relief Fund. It's not general fund dollars.
So I would
So-
say, can we look at this? Because I thought Corp Council had issued an opinion a few years back. There was some concern regarding how we could use those funds, I thought, no?
Well, it came up a couple of years ago when the commission requested the $700 additional kicker for the additional big kicker, so long and insane. The additional amount of funding for the burials. So,
At that time, I remember that they said if the commission allocated or directed the funding to go that way, that it would be fine.
yeah, at the end of the day, the appropriation is the
Because
final
we
authority.
appropriated.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, the appropriation says we're going to put an additional $100,000 in the Veterans Fund for these services, and the language should say that the Veterans Fund will provide outreach services, which is what you're saying here.
The same language as we have for the burial, that we're allocating an additional $700.
Well, the burial, we're not actually, the burial, if you recall, during each budget hearing, when veterans comes up, I'm making sure that the commission knows and it's on the record that.
It's coming from us.
It's coming from you guys saying that, to do that. Now, she's gonna argue with this, that it probably isn't the case, but I would rather have CYA as opposed to no CYA, you know?
She wants CYA too, but for us.
Right, right.
Commissioner Maraki?
You're talking of coming from us, meaning the general fund.
No, I'm saying it's coming from the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund, which is,
The additional burial money that we,
yeah, the $300 comes from the general fund. That's
Okay.
required by law, some state statute or something. And then what the commission has requested, or what the county provides the the veterans and their spouses, is an additional $700 on top of that, which comes from the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund.
okay, so the 300 comes from the general.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's nothing in the statute that says anything about the additional $700. The statute basically, it's fairly restricted of what you can use it for, emergency rent payments and things like that, building wheelchair ramps and stuff like that. To me, this is outside the quote norm, and as long as everyone is in agreement, the commission, the CEO's office, everyone, that there's not going to be an issue. You're not going to have a veteran come and complain that we're giving you an extra $700 that Oakland County's not doing. Okay, so it's just basically to get everybody on the same page and in agreement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Martha G. Scott.
Thank you. I just want some clarification. Now, this additional person, is that coming out of some of the services?
No.
To the veterans?
No, it's coming out of fund balance.
Yeah.
It's coming out of fund balance. All right, thank you.
There's a $1.8 million fund balance that's, that will be used, it will be used to fund this.
To fund
Right.
that person.
So it's $1.8 million as of 18. This budget provides for using, I think, 500,000 of additional, of fund balance. So this person would make it 600,000 of fund balance. So it would, if nothing else changes, it would go down to $1.2 million of fund balance, which is still more than we need. The fighting weight for that fund should be around $500,000.
So as I argued, we could have afforded two. But we'll take one for now.
We get one for a longer period of time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It is. It is number 10.
Okay,
If I could recommend, we could take item 30, or pages 32 through 37 together, because there's no changes other than primarily just date changes.
yes, let's do that.
We'll go to page 38, and then we can take the rest of the report in one fall swoop also. Page 38, Terrence?
Well, 38 is the tax levy section, and the numbers, the number that's being changed are, well, date, years, and then dollar amounts based on the proposed CEO budget. Now, these numbers are going to change
Right.
after, they are going to change after final approval from the Wayne County Commission. So this section here will be updated after even approval of out of Ways and Means and out of Kyle until it's finally approved by the commission. This is only a section that's going to be changed after that, because until the commission approves the budget with the technical amendments, these numbers are inaccurate
So after the 19th.
after the 19th.
Right, and this section is required by, I think it's required by state statute. I think.
And then page,
Commissioner Markey?
Just a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry. So next year, just for review, the Parks millage should be on the ballot, and what's the other one?
That's the ninth and nine tenths mill and the 1/10 mill. And that's, I think, the following year. That's the safety,
Oh, the public safety.
public safety.
That's not the same year as the Parks
Yeah,
millage?
they have them different years, I think.
Okay, all right, thank you.
and then pages 39 through the end of the report, there are no proposed changes.
Felicia?
So just for clear, so I'm just trying to get clarification. So these numbers will change, but they won't change after final approval of full board? Or are you saying once we do final approval of full board, they change?
It'll be, it's almost simultaneous.
Concurrent with final approval.
Yeah, so Terrence and I, once,
So that these numbers are really just placeholders until we get to final approval,
Right.
which will be the 19th of September.
Okay, I thought you were changing the ordinance after approval. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
oh, we
Good
wouldn't
catch.
tell you about that.
And then, and then pages 39 through the end of the report are no changes. And
Great.
then we can move on to.
Oh, boy.
Okay, I guess we'll wait to vote on this until next Tuesday.
Right.
For the final. So please take it back and look at it. If you have any changes between now and then, please give it to Terrence ahead of time. Because we're going to, on the 10th, approve or not, the whole thing.
No.
Next
no.
item.
You did all the work, you get all the credit.
Next item 2, technical amendment review.
Kevin? Oh, Commissioner Marecki?
I have a question, and I should remember this from other years, but I think we did it a little bit differently. before this. Are these the final ones, or can we still put requests in? I know it says technical amendment summary proposed, but can we still,
What is it you're looking for?
I'm looking for $223,606 for the clerk's office for two people, and the mandated service, the $13,000 for the mandated service for elections.
Didn't we put that in?
It isn't there?
Yeah, we think so, yeah.
Oh, I thought I just looked through this and didn't see it.
No,
Wow.
it's not in here. It's in the original CEO recommended budget.
Then how come she asked us for it?
I don't know.
Really? You think it's in there?
No, I need to know, is
Yeah,
it in there?
We'll double check. In fact, I've asked her, we've asked each other 2 or 3 times.
You
and she
have?
does- Yeah, and we thought we put those positions in, especially for the
Elections.
elections.
Okay, would you just double check before okay, thank you.
And these things are not final until they're approved by full board. So-
Right, no, right.
So we
I just didn't know if we could-
And Terrence gave us a whole list of stuff that he thinks that are wrong with our technical adjustments, so we have to go back and reconcile them.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay,
Terrence does a great job being the watchdog for management budget.
I think that that's an understatement.
Commissioner Palomero and McCormick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we on the technical adjustments yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Number 1, I'm hoping is a typo.
So we're gonna check that, Commissioner.
Okay, and what I'm referring to is the Port Authority is currently at 250,000, and I looked at the statute, and the city and the county are required to make up the other 50% of the budget.
Right.
And I believe the different versions are between 409,000 and 468,000 that have been recommended, which means that the county's portion would be half of 409 or 468, which if you take the lesser amount, I can see where 204,550 works, but this says
Right,
104,550.
we're gonna check that, and we'll fix that before the thing gets finalized.
Okay,
I mean, you pointed that out earlier, and Kelly and I looked at each other, so.
okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to consider that to be a 245 as opposed to a 145.
The numbers, the technical adjustment will change, the dollar amounts of the technical change will change, but it'll still be technical change number 1, so, again, these are all draft until,
Yeah.
submitted.
Mark?
And Kevin, I was just going to suggest that if you want to walk us through, Terrence has put together a one-page summary, and the significant ones that I saw that may want some discussion are items 1, 2, 9, 10, and then 14 through 18, which are the prosecutor. And if you wanted to speak to him in the context of the budget hearings that we had.
Which ones are they again?
1, 2, 9, 10, and then 14 through 18.
14 through 18. Okay. Well, Kelly's actually going to do this. I'm not going to do this. She did all the work.
Sure.
So she got all the credit, and she made all the mistakes. So,
Yeah. Kelly Rao, Assistant Budget Director, Management and Budget. Technical change number 1, as we discussed, that is for the Port Authority, their share that Wayne County provides to them. We will verify the dollar amount. It may be a decrease of 45 rather than 145. Tech change number 2.
This is the one that is near and dear to the heart of Commissioner Colleen.
jeez.
That is for the MSU extension, providing them $50,000 additional.
And that's for the Wayne County Conservative Conservation
Conservation
District.
District.
And that is predicated, I don't mean to interrupt and blow your
That's
thunder.
okay.
It's predicated on them the district providing the county with the services they expect to use the funds for.
Okay, let me chime in on this one because it's been talked about a lot. Of this $50,000, 25 for sure will be contracted with the Conservation District. For many reasons, which I really don't want to go on record right now, I think it would be best if they contracted with an organization for services that they can provide the county, but may not have the capacity for audits and doing audits and those kinds of things. So it would be better if they contracted with someone as opposed to us giving them straight out monies. They had received $25,000 this year that they could not collect from the county because nothing was, we didn't have anything in, there was no agreement for them on how to pay them.
And what to pay them for.
Or what to even
Okay.
pay them for, so no MOU or anything. So I agreed that Corp Counsel was correct that you can't pay somebody, even though they did services for something that you didn't have any contract for. Am I correct, Felicia? We cannot pay anything out to anybody that doesn't have a contract for services.
Happens all the time.
Since I'm not aware of all the details, I don't necessarily want to speak, because we do retroactive contracts, so even
I
though they
didn't-
didn't have a contract at the time, that's not to say they couldn't get a contract to get paid for the services if everyone agreed. But again, not being aware of all the details, I don't know if what legal concerns Corp Counsel had and the reasons why they had them.
And I think the comment from Felicia is absolutely right, but the point was if everyone agreed. And that was the problem.
Yeah. The
So-
problem was internal within the organization, and they could not get us, they would not sign an MOU that could have got them paid. And so it was their, I look at it and I'll take the responsibility of saying it. It was their own fault that they didn't get it. And I told them so in my office several times. They need to get their act together before they can do business with the county.
Right. And then because they're on the radar of the Corporation Council, the Corporation Councils are going to be watching it. You know, they'll be looking at that.
And I'm not going to be responsible, and I'm not going to take you down that road to be responsible
Right.
to pay someone who doesn't have their act together if an audit should be performed. So we're going forward to next year with the 25, and there's going to be some administrative fee, I'm sure, from, to the exchange, and they'll have a contractual something going, and unless they have that in place, they will not be able to, and then we'll decide what we'll do at that time with the 25,000 that we're allocating. Commissioner Maraki?
So they got 25,000 from the state last year, too. Do we know if they got anything from the state this year?
They did,
They did?
25.
Okay. So this is like, we're giving them double because they
And
messed up
actually,
last
the
year.
contract ends with the state of Michigan this year.
It
So they're
does.
going to have to redo it next year.
Okay.
So MSU Extension can they can do a lot of good with the MSU Extension because their work is related.
This isn't the MSU this is this group of Colleen's, what's her name?
It's a Wayne County
Conservation.
District.
It's not the
Where is that
MSU
district,
extension.
though?
Yeah.
It's in Detroit, I thought.
It's Wayne County.
Yeah.
It's the total Wayne County.
They did the
all
mapping
over.
of the soil. They did the
Yes.
mapping of our soil.
They do very good work, it's just they cannot, they don't have a
Administrate
contract
well.
with Wayne County to do it.
I see. But are they gonna fix that? Are they gonna address it?
We're gonna let them go through MSU.
I see, okay, gotcha.
But they're still going to have to,
They're gonna
Is
have to have an MOU
right,
or a contract with.
Right.
So,
The extension program that we do business.
exactly.
Makes sense, makes sense.
And this way, they will have to have certain specifications in order to have a contract with MSU. So they'll get their act together for them.
Sure.
They'll have to. I'm sorry to be so blunt, but it is what it is. Alrighty. Commissioner Bacon McCormick.
We had talked about the scouts, the sheriff's department.
That's
Were there-
different.
Okay. Was there any increase or any monies put towards that?
Let's go through this.
Through this
and-
first?
yeah.
Okay, okay.
Commissioner Martin? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The group that Commissioner has, do they test any of the soil at the jail? Do they
No,
do-
they wouldn't do that.
No,
wouldn't
that's
do
not
that.
what they would do.
Okay. So what soil
They
do
do a lot of
test?
workshops.
Oh, it's workshops that they do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Among other things that we don't know or they can't account for.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Not to me, at least, so.
Kelly. Back to Kelly.
Kevin?
Kelly.
I'm gonna jump to number
Oh,
9.
Kelly, sorry.
Jump to number 9, okay.
Yes.
Did you want to go through
Well, I just.
all of them
No, that's up to the
individually?
chair. I just wanted to, I have a question about 3.
Okay.
Let's come back to it.
Okay, I'll just make a note.
Okay, number 9 is the additional funding for the Violent Crimes Task Force to provide for staffing and supplies and equipment for the prosecutor's office.
So in that case, what happened was the original budget submitted to the commission was for 10 officers and two APAs. And what the prosecutor is now asking for is an additional 2 FTEs, prosecuting attorneys to be embedded within, I think they're going to be embedded at Detroit Police Headquarters, as well as some supplies. So, and just as an FYI for information, and there's also supposed to be a grand jury convening, I guess, and at that point in time, we will be coming back to the commission to fund an additional 2 prosecutors, when and if that ever happens.
Do we know what, can we ask?
I don't know. I don't know, but I'm just giving you a heads up that there may be an additional 2 prosecutors. She asked for 6. I was told to put in 2, and then there was negotiated to 4.
Well, that makes sense.
Confused about the grand jury part of this.
Yeah, well, that's my understanding. At some point in time, there's going to be some kind of grand jury for
For
the
this?
warrants, yeah.
For the warrants.
Yeah, for the warrants, I guess. I don't know, that's a legal thing. I don't know what they would do.
Can't talk about that right
Yeah.
now.
Oh, okay.
We shouldn't be discussing,
Oh,
I mean, I get where the funding unit, but we probably don't want to have.
yeah, that's not,
Okay, on
Never
a
mind.
lighter note, have we heard anything from Judge Kenny about anything? Because hopefully
we hear
Assad.
nothing, we
heard-
hear
okay.
nothing on the grand jury.
I
He
did tell
didn't
the.
No, I'm
say
talking about
anything.
Judge Kenny and his okay
Right,
with
and
this
I
program.
did tell our judge, Judge Kaufman, to give him a heads up and
Okay.
talk to him. I don't know if he did it or not.
Okay.
They talk on a regular basis about stuff, so it's possible that he did. It's probable that he did.
All right, well, I mean, I
So-
can always call him and ask him, but
Right.
it would be nice if the whole commission knew that he was okay with this program.
And
Okay.
we're going to ensure that there's proper staffing, continued staffing at the jail, and I know that's the concern.
Right, thank you.
Okay. next.
Okay, number 10, that is the budget adjustment or the technical adjustment for the additional outreach for the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Fund.
I asked for 100,000, it's 90.
That's what an FTE costs.
Oh.
So we run it through the budget model, so the manpower model.
Okay, I just wanted you to know, I noticed.
Commissioner, if you want, I can plug.
add the other.
I can plug $9,000
9.9.
somewhere in there if you wish.
We'll just get a budget adjustment later in the year. Kelly, the reason I asked you to talk about 14 through 18 also was because the prosecuting attorney was here asking for approximately, I don't recall, $4 to $6 million. The total of these comes to just over $1 million. So I think that she was going to go to the CEO to discuss those needs, and is this what was resolved with her?
These 14, excuse me, let's see here, 15, 16 are to align with the grants that they received that were not carried over with the original budget request. 14, that is also the same case that was a grant award that was not carried forward, so that was the balance of their grant not used through 2019. For technical adjustment number 17, that was also the grant funding left over to be carried over for budget year 2020. And technical adjustment number 18, that's use of fund balance for the Drug Enforcement Fund for body cam and JWAP initiatives.
So the short
But
answer
none
is
of it,
no.
no, none of that was the additional request by the prosecutor.
The prosecutor had a meeting yesterday to ask for the IT. Did she get it?
I'm not aware of any requests from the CEO's office to add any additional funding to the
Okay.
prosecuting attorney.
Okay, stay tuned for that, maybe.
Jeez. And
Public health, number 19.
Number 19.
no, that's a reconciling the grant.
No,
Grant award.
okay.
Yeah, that's a realignment of the grant funding for public health.
Yeah, what they did is that once they submitted their budget, and then once they saw what it looked like, they went back and wanted to realign certain things. So there was no increase to I don't think there's an increase to the budget. I think it's just a realignment.
That's correct.
Okay. Going back, Commissioner Webb, to which one?
Yeah, number 3. I just had a question that the nutrition fund was just decreased by $3,039.
Turn your microphone
Oh,
on.
I'm
and
sorry. It's on.
Pull up your chair.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. It's only $3,039. I was just curious as to, it's a decrease in the nutrition fund. Is that because the numbers are down, or?
That's that we just realigned it to the grant. So I mean, it's
Oh, I see. You shorted up to the grant, but there's no waiting list.
no, there's no waiting list, to my knowledge. So
Okay. That's all. Just
We
curious.
we were assured that there would not be.
I appreciate that.
Did we leave any other ones out?
the rest of them are basically minor changes, with the exception of maybe Tech 5, and we're just moving some dollars between jail medical and jail mental because the CCS contract, or WellPath, or whatever it's called nowadays, there seems to be more utilization in jail mental than there is jail medical. So, but no additional funding is going to that. It's just a swap.
Okay, so we've gone through these. We're gonna try to approve them next meeting then?
Yeah, we have to make some adjustments to them, according to Terrence. We have to go back and look at them, and then they'll be resubmitted. When's Tuesday's the meeting? Tuesday? So we'll try to get them either tomorrow or Monday.
You know, I have one quick question about
Yeah.
the funding source, and just because I probably don't understand it. When you were talking about on technical change number 10, the outreach coordinator for the Veterans Division, and it says, I thought your answer to Commissioner Baker McCormick was that the $90,120 would be taken from the fund balance. Is the fund balance created by the millage, and is it a permissible use of millage dollars? Or is it
Well,
not?
that was the discussion earlier in the meeting, that it's not, does not fall under the state statute of you can spend the money for this. But however, if all parties, and Felicia doesn't agree with me that the commission is the fallback of the Veterans Committee, but let's just say I'm half right and she's half right, then the idea is that because it's in here and everyone is understanding that these monies are going to be used specifically for veterans outreach, that these are acceptable dollars that the commission and the CEO want to use these dollars for.
Because I thought it was going to be funded from the general fund. I didn't know you were taking out of the dollars from, because the millage is really designed for the services for the veterans.
We have an excess fund fund balance right now, so
Yeah, that's because we haven't had the people in the department to get the services out to the veterans.
so we're hoping that this is a good use I think it's a good use for it, to be able to get the veterans in there for the services.
I do, but I think it would be
And then
better
if-
if they gave it to us from the general fund instead of taking it away from the dollars that are actually generated to
Well,
serve veterans.
that was my idea. And then if we find that this is working and we need more services, then we can go back to the general fund next year and do that.
Oh,
Okay, I guess that was my concern when I was questioning that,
yeah.
where that person was being paid from.
I really, you'll still have a $1 million left over in that fund balance. And if we see that it's getting close at all to being depleted, we can always go, our budget is a living document. We can always go back and make the budget adjustment to be taken out of the general fund. We can do that.
And if you may, even going back to the burials, we have,
I almost thought he had a heart.
No.
Wrong. Yeah, I know. Rudely mistaken.
you're not allowed to have a heart
Diane,
disposition.
I have to
so-
take the blame for this, so I'm not gonna, let anybody else take the blame. I'm the one that suggested that we do that, so.
But even if I may, and before you go, Commissioner, even when we talk about the burials, that's a year-to-year appropriation. So we do an analysis right after the capper's done of what is available in that fund for use and what we can use them for legally and what we can use them for what we think is legally. And we do that on an annual basis. So, and I've told this committee before, I said, if the fund balance falls below X, and like I said, I think the fighting weight for that particular fund's about 500,000, then we would be recommending to either reduce the number of the dollar amounts being provided, that 700,000 goes down to 5 or 4 or something like that, or it may get eliminated. So each one, and this same thing with this position right now can be funded out of the Veterans Fund. Push comes to shove, if it's successful, then it can be funded out of the general fund at some future point in time. But why let the
Can't it be
money,
funded out of the general fund right
why
now?
let the money sit there and not be used?
Yeah,
No, the
The-
money, yeah.
The issue is also, if you retain a significant amount of restricted fund balance, what are you ultimately going to use it for? Personally, again, and I was criticized for getting into policy before, so I don't want to, I don't want to walk that line anymore. But if you use your restricted money instead of general fund money, you always have the general fund money, which is less restrictive. So you can always use it for
Stuff.
any stuff, and you don't necessarily have to check the box as you use it. So we still have the the issue that we should really be discussing is, are we going to is this a good program, and are we going to continue it? Because if it is successful, regardless of where it comes from, then it can continue and grow.
yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't want it to be taken out of the services
Well, it is.
that's provided
It is.
for them.
No, it is not.
It's not
being
because
taken
it's
out of
not
services,
being
'cause These are
used.
monies that are just sitting there.
Just sitting
There are
there.
monies that were were gathered via millage that is intended for their services.
Commissioner, I've been trying to burn down a $4 million surplus for like 7 years, and we're now down to 1.2.
That's because we don't put the general fund allocations into the department to hire the people to get the services
That's
out to
absolutely
the
not-
veterans.
That's absolutely not true.
Oh, it is absolutely true. I'm not gonna have that argument. That's just absolutely ignorant. All right, I'm out.
Martha, I assure you, the veterans will be served. And really, to all of our members too, this was my idea to take the money from there because we have over $1 million sitting there and not being used. And if we don't have someone for the outreach program, it's not going to be used because nobody's reaching out to them. And I wanted, and most of us want, a veteran to be hired for this position. This will be the first veteran serving in that department besides the director. So the other ones are civil service who are not veterans. This will be a veteran serving a veteran. I cannot think of another program right now that is more important than going out to reach them to see what else can we do for you, veterans. I'm a veteran. Maybe I know what my fellow veterans might need, and I will do whatever it takes to get them in here. And that is the crux of this position. So,
We have any idea who that person will be?
it will be a veteran, that's all I know.
Yeah, that'll be up to
To the
the
director?
department, yeah.
Okay.
But I think we're doing something very, very good. We used to have one, his name was Joe Callahan. He passed away, so I know it's not going to be him, but he was very good. He was very good, and we need someone like
Just wondered if we
him.
knew who it was.
No, we would not be part of the hiring process anyways. Alrighty, any more questions? I'm sorry to get on my soapbox, but it just upsets me when I try to do something good and all of a sudden it's not good enough.
I'm glad we're gonna finally get this person out there.
Thank you, Martha.
No, because I'm tired of hearing that person talk about somebody for Western Wayne, okay?
Yes,
Instead of us talking about what we need all over. We gotta stop dividing ourselves.
feel your pain.
Yeah.
Next item, yes.
Well, the director
Next.
is from Highland Park.
Next item D, such other matters as may properly be submitted before the committee.
Kevin, do you have anything? Mark, do you have anything?
I just, again, you've heard me say it before, and I'm going to say it one more time, and maybe some more, but I just want to thank my staff for all the hard work they particularly put into
Hear,
the
hear,
the
hear.
budget instructions. And you can see the work and the hard work by the administration and the cooperation that we get from them.
Thank you, too.
Significant amount of work goes into this, the technical adjustments, and just coordinating and making sure that everything is right before we have to vote on it. So again, thanks to both sides.
I can tell the amount of work that Terrence does. I mean, when I got down here, his hair was jet black.
It's turning, isn't it? It's turning.
Terrence, at least you still got it, Hoss. You know, at least it's up there.
What,
I mean, and again, nobody appreciates institutional knowledge, and it really exists with, well, I mean, with specifically with Kevin and his
There's
group
no
and
doubt about it.
and Terrence, and I don't think as a county we
need
appreciate
all these young
institutional
folks.
knowledge as
No,
much as we
need
should.
somebody who has some institutional knowledge.
the only thing that I have is that the prosecutor is still trying to work on the IT issue, and I think we're so behind her on that. The $1 million software, and the case we are trying to make is that it's going to have to be paid when we move into the new jail because it's software, or it can be bought now. And if it's bought now, we could save a lot of money on the warrants. And also then we could bring along the communities, the entire Wayne County community, law enforcement units to be able to use electronic system instead of having to deliver or fax a lot of paperwork in warrants down to the prosecutor's office. So this $1 million that we're talking about, I think, is for the entire county. It's not really just for the prosecutor. So if we're asking to deliver something to our communities, that would be a great thing for us to bring back to our communities, so that way they could tap into the prosecutor's system. So if we wait until the jail is up and running to do it, it's going to take that much longer for the locals to be able to tap into it. So we have it, we should use it. Kevin?
Yes.
We will be meeting with Judge Kaufman this afternoon, and we'll mention it to him as well.
I think the prosecutor met with them yesterday at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Then he'll enlighten us.
And it was a very good meeting, so I'm hoping that we will have that adjustment coming.
And I was just, I know IT is going to put, I think you said $700,000 into the hardware over there, the computers and the
That's
prosecutors. So would the software that Commissioner Barr is talking about, would that work on the new,
Yeah.
I think it would.
all right.
Well, the software would definitely work on the new ones because they haven't even ordered it. Well, they haven't because they're not funded. So they would make sure that those software are going to be compatible for years to come.
I know my districts would.
That's something we could deliver to each of our communities, the ability to not have to do this manually.
I think if I could, not to prolong it too much, but I think it's something that's so overdue, and it'll, as has been said, it'll positively affect all of our communities to be able to move into the 21st century, and it's something you can't get the departments, the police departments up doing what they need to be doing, our sheriff's department and others, without having the prosecutor's office brought up at the same time. And it's just, I realize in the short time that I've been here that there always seems to be an ask out there by the prosecutor. but
That'll probably continue for a long time.
I don't think that's going to go away, but I do.
We fully fund her.
She made a good point. I think the presentation that she made an excellent point.
It was
That
compelling.
they're living in the past, and the savings and efficiency, I think, would just be huge, So I think there's a lot of unanimity. I think probably no disagreement by members of the committee, certainly, and I'd be surprised if there's any from the commission.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, those who are watching us on YouTube or some other means, if they're as confused because there was no documents in front of them to see what we were really discussing or what we were really doing. So I wonder about the transparency sometimes, how transparent it is just to have it live on TV. So,
One thing that can be done, at some point, is post the information online if anyone wants to go to see it and view it themselves. If it's not some type of like a settlement in a case or something, certainly you can't disclose all of that. But
our agendas are posted, and if people don't look at our agenda and read our agenda, they probably will not understand what's going on during our meetings. So, but we're trying.
steps.
Yep. Next.
Next item E, public comments.
Anyone from the public wishing to comment? Anyone from the public wishing to comment? In that case, next item.
Adjournment.
Been moved and supported. All in favor, say aye. Ayes have it.
Is there any chance you're gonna want?
Might. We can.
You're still on.
I wanna take.
You're still on.
No,
This one, Rick?
no, we're gonna finish on the 10th. I want to take the 12th off too. I'm gonna be up north in my new house. I closed on it.
Today the first day?
Last round.
Erase that.
Yeah, they will. Wayne erases.
Wayne probably erases what I just said about that
He
too.
erases it.
But it's right.
He makes sure he erases it. Yeah, he does.
But I mean, that is correct.
Lockup video. You know, they got like.
No.
Check it out.
That's true.
Jail video, man.
Nice. At least you get your stripes then, right?
There should, to you, whatever updates Terrence was talking about, that form, whatever.
It is what it is.
Budget language. There's a copy to me.
I didn't get it.
Somebody did.
So I don't know what's.
I can send you, I can send you one.
But if they're changing it still. Okay.
Yeah, but I, yeah.
There's some I was making notes.
Oh, that's good.
Oh my gosh, open that other door for you. Terrence and both doors.
Yeah.
Probably.
Talk, commish. Changes the hair up, huh?
Yeah. One's getting married and, so I had to do something.
Congratulations. When?
Yeah,
When's he getting married?
Saturday.
Oh, coming up.
Yeah.
Locally?
Yeah, actually, he's getting married in, Taylor in that little, park. Park, yeah, in that little chapel. Yep, little chapel,
Bit of the petting farm over there.
yeah.
Yeah, they do. It's nice.